My name is Emily Carter, and I'm 29 years old. On paper, I've got everything together: senior financial analyst at one of Manhattan's top firms, living in a beautiful high-rise apartment with a view of the East River. But every month, when I transfer $1,600 to cover my parents' mortgage, I don't feel accomplished. I feel like that little girl again, desperate for approval, chasing love that always felt just out of reach. Despite the fact that I'm funding their lifestyle, I remain the family disappointment. My younger brother, Josh, 3 years younger than me, continues to bask in praise he never really earned. But this Thanksgiving? Something shifted. Something inside me snapped. Before I tell you how I finally stood up for myself, drop a comment below and tell me where you're watching from. And if you've ever felt unappreciated by the very people you've sacrificed for, go ahead and hit that like button. This one's for you. Growing up in the Carter household meant learning one truth early: my dad, Raymond, had expectations. High ones. And somehow, I always fell short. From spelling bees to science fairs, nothing I achieved was quite enough. "Second place is just the first loser," he'd say, flipping over my trophies like they were meaningless trinkets. My mom, Cheryl, was no better, just quieter about it. Where dad was openly critical, mom was passively indifferent. "That's nice, sweetie," she'd mutter without lifting her eyes from a tabloid featuring Josh's high school football team. Her disinterest often stung more than dad's cutting remarks. Then there was Josh. He became the family's golden boy the moment he tossed his first touchdown at age 7. Never mind his average grades or careless behavior, he had promise. Meanwhile, my straight A's were just Emily trying to show off again. When Josh made varsity as a freshman, my parents threw a backyard barbecue. When I got into Columbia on partial scholarship, I got a nod and, "Well, you always liked books." This dynamic didn't change, it hardened. I stopped seeking approval and found validation in the places I could: teacher praise, academic awards, the quiet satisfaction of independence. College became my escape hatch. I majored in economics and minored in data science. Graduated with honors. Not a single family member showed up to my graduation. Josh had a scrimmage. Still, I landed on my feet: job at Denning Cole, one of the most prestigious financial firms in the city. I built a life in Manhattan. Stayed in polite but distant contact with my parents. Holidays, birthday calls, just enough to maintain the illusion of connection. Then, 3 years ago, everything changed. Dad called one Tuesday evening. His voice, usually sharp, was unusually soft. He'd been laid off after 22 years at the textile plant. At 60, with no college degree and outdated skills, his chances of finding anything close to his old job were slim. Mom had only ever worked part-time at the local library. They were 3 months behind on their mortgage. Their savings were gone. The bank was threatening foreclosure. Coincidentally, I had just been promoted. My salary had jumped. I had savings, investments. I was comfortable. So without hesitation, I packed up my apartment and moved back to Westchester, just 20 minutes from my parents. I rented a small place nearby, started paying their $1,600 mortgage directly to the bank. I covered groceries, utilities, their car insurance. Roughly $800 extra a month. Just until your dad finds something. Mom had said, squeezing my hand, eyes full of tears. That was 3 years ago. Dad eventually found part-time work at a hardware store, barely enough to cover his personal expenses. Mom picked up more hours at the library. But the bills, the real ones, remained squarely on my shoulders. $2,400 a month. $28,800 a year. Every year. For 3 years, did they ever thank me? Not in any meaningful way. Dad still mocked my job as just numbers on a screen. Mom still found ways to compare me unfavorably to Josh, who now lived in Dallas selling athletic gear. He called on holidays, sent the occasional card, but he didn't send money. Not a dime. Still, he was the pride of the family. This year, I decided to host Thanksgiving at my apartment. I'd just moved into a larger place after another promotion, this time to senior investment strategist. The new spot had a dining room big enough for everyone. I invited Mom and Dad, Josh, and his new girlfriend, Zoe. I spent weeks planning the perfect holiday: bourbon-glazed ham for Dad, sweet potato casserole for Mom, and Josh's favorite craft IPA. The Tuesday before Thanksgiving, I dropped $350 at Whole Foods. Organic produce, a free-range turkey, high-end cheeses, only the best. As I loaded the bags into my car, I looked in the rearview mirror and told myself, this year, they'll see how much I care. But another voice, one far more honest, whispered, when have they ever? Thanksgiving morning started with butter sizzling in pans, the scent of rosemary and sage filling the air. I'd been up since 5 a.m., prepping. My table was set with the best dinnerware I owned, wedding gifts from a marriage that hadn't worked out. My grandmother's antique chandelier sparkled overhead, the one heirloom I had managed to keep. I was creating something beautiful. Something worthy. At 11:30, the doorbell rang. Mom arrived first, holding a store-bought pumpkin pie. Despite me telling her dessert was covered, the table looks nice, she said, scanning my setup. But wouldn't it be better with those blue plates? These white ones are so sterile. I bit back a reply. Thanks for the pie, Mom. You can leave it in the kitchen. She frowned at the turkey roasting in the oven. You're not using my recipe? I tried a brining method this year, herbs, citrus, supposed to keep it juicy. I hope your father won't mind you experimenting, she said, in that tone that always meant she already did. At 12:15, Josh strolled in, empty-handed, Zoe by his side, carrying a bouquet of yellow roses. These are gorgeous, I said, genuinely touched. Thank you, Zoe. Our pleasure, she smiled. Your place is stunning. Can I help with anything? Before I could answer, Mom swooped in. Josh. Look how handsome you are. That Dallas sun's treating you well. Josh grinned like royalty. Sales are up this quarter. I might be getting a bonus. That's wonderful, honey, Mom gushed. I handed Zoe a glass of wine. Everything's under control, but thanks for offering. Zoe watched the room with quiet curiosity. Josh told me so much about your family. It's nice to finally meet everyone. I wondered what he'd actually told her. Judging by her sympathetic expression, I suspected it was more truth than spin. Dad arrived last, 15 minutes before dinner. He brought a 6-pack of Bud Light, ignoring the IPAs I'd picked up just for him. This place is hard to find, he muttered by way of greeting. I texted you the directions yesterday. I reminded him. Well, smells good in here at least, he said. Which, from him, was high praise. As I returned to the kitchen, I heard him say to Mom, Emily's going all fancy again. Must be trying to show off with all that New York money. I gripped the counter, jaw tight. $28,800. 3 years of financial lifelines. And this was my reward? Josh wandered into the kitchen, rummaging through my fridge like he lived there. Hey, Dad brought Bud. You got any of that in here? I took a slow breath. There's craft beer in the back. I grabbed that IPA you said you liked. He glanced at it and shrugged. Dad says those are for people who want to feel fancy. I smiled tightly. Take whatever you want. Josh. He popped open a can without a thank you and leaned against the counter while I basted the turkey. At least that was turning out perfectly, golden brown, crisp skin, right on schedule. One thing was going right. At exactly 1 o'clock, I called everyone to the table. It looked like a spread from Bon Appetit: roast turkey, bourbon glazed ham, 3 kinds of potatoes, green bean casserole, homemade cranberry sauce, warm dinner rolls. The dishes gleamed under the soft light of my chandelier. This wasn't just food, it was an offering. Everyone took their places, Dad at one end, Josh and Zoe on one side, Mom and I on the other. Dad scanned the table, then frowned. Where's the stuffing? It's right there, I said, pointing to a dish by his elbow. It's cornbread stuffing with sausage and apples. He gave it a suspicious poke. Doesn't look like your mother's stuffing. And just like that, the mood shifted. Let's say grace, Dad announced, reaching for Mom's hand and Josh's. We all bowed our heads. Lord, he began, we thank you for this food and for bringing our family together. We're especially grateful that Josh made the trip from Dallas to be with us. We thank you for his continued success, and for Zoe joining our family circle. We ask your blessing on this meal and our family bonds, which are more important than any material possessions or worldly accomplishments. Amen. My eyes stayed shut a beat longer, not from reverence, but disbelief. Not a word. Not one single mention of the home I'd provided, the meal I'd cooked, or the financial sacrifices I'd made. I opened my eyes and met Zoe's across the table. She gave me a subtle look, an acknowledgement. She saw it too. The turkey looks amazing, Emily, she offered kindly, breaking the tension. Not bad, Mom chimed in. Though I usually leave it in a bit longer. It's perfect, Zoe countered, cutting into her slice. Moist but fully done. Did you brine it? Yes, I said, brightening slightly. Overnight, with herbs and citrus. Fancy, Dad muttered, helping himself to a massive slice of ham. Josh, already on his second beer, launched into football talk. Did you see the Cowboys game last week, Dad? And just like that, I was invisible. For the next 20 minutes, they discussed pass coverage and season stats. Mom tossed in the occasional question for Zoe about her job as a pediatric nurse. I sat there, quietly pushing cranberry sauce around my plate, wondering why I had bothered with imported cheeses and organic carrots if no one noticed. During a rare lull in the football discussion, Zoe turned to me. So, Emily, how's work? Before I could answer, Mom cut in. Oh, she's still at that finance place. Always glued to her laptop. Nothing like your job, Josh, where you get to meet all those athletes and exciting people. I put my fork down. Actually, I said, keeping my voice steady, I was promoted last month. I'm now managing a portfolio worth over $300 million. Zoe's eyes widened. That's incredible. Dad snorted. All numbers on a screen. Not like real work. My hands clenched under the table. My work is very real, Dad. Those numbers represent people's retirement plans, their kids' college funds, their futures. And good money for you, I bet, he said. Which is why I don't get why you're always bringing up that mortgage. Helping out family shouldn't feel like such a chore. The room fell silent. Even Josh stopped chewing. When have I ever complained? I asked quietly. Mom spoke without looking up. You mentioned it last week. Said the payment was due soon, like we don't know. I only brought it up because I needed to transfer the money from my investment account, I said. It takes 2 business days to process, and the holiday throws off the timing. There you go again, Dad interrupted, waving his fork. Always about the money. We get it, Emily. You're successful. You pay some bills. Do you want a medal? Raymond, Mom murmured, more out of habit than disapproval. No, Cheryl. I'm tired of walking on eggshells. She acts like we owe her some kind of parade. My hands trembled. I have never held anything over your heads. I paid your mortgage, your utilities, your car insurance, for 3 years, because you needed help. Not once have I asked for gratitude. But maybe I should have. Mom jumped in. We appreciate it. Don't we, Raymond? Dad stabbed a piece of ham. What I'd appreciate is a daughter who values more than a paycheck. Family is about loyalty, not dollars. I laughed, a dry, bitter sound. Loyalty? I moved back here to help you. I paid nearly $30,000 to keep you in that house. And you still treat me like I'm the second-string daughter. Josh looked uncomfortable. Maybe we should, no, I said sharply. Let's talk about special treatment. That's what Dad called it. When exactly have I ever been given special treatment in this family? No one answered. You want to talk about loyalty? What about acknowledgement? Basic human decency? Would a simple thank you be so hard? Dad slammed his hand on the table, silverware jumping. Enough. I won't be spoken to like this. Oh, I'm sorry, I said, voice cold. I forgot, this isn't even my house, right? Or wait, it is. It's my apartment. That I pay for. Just like I pay for your home. He stood, his chair screeching back. Get out. I blinked. Get out? Of my own home? Paying bills doesn't make you family, he shouted. It just makes you arrogant. Zoe looked horrified. Josh stared at his plate. Mom reached for Dad's arm. Raymond, please. It's Thanksgiving. He shook her off. I won't sit here and be disrespected by my own daughter. Disrespected? I repeated. You mean, held accountable? Mom leaned in, hissing, you're just jealous of your brother. You always have been. I froze. It wasn't the first time she'd implied it, but now, after everything, it landed like a punch. You know what? I said calmly. You're right. Josh is the perfect child. He calls on holidays, sends the occasional card, and contributes absolutely nothing. Let him take over the mortgage. Let him be the hero now. Josh opened his mouth, but I was already walking toward the door. Dinner's over, I said flatly. Please leave. They stood up, one by one. Dad stormed out without a word, his footsteps heavy with anger. Mom lingered for a second, looking like she might say something, an apology. Maybe, but in the end, she just sniffed and followed him. Josh wouldn't meet my eyes. Zoe paused at the door, the only one who seemed genuinely heartbroken by how it had all gone down. I'm so sorry, she whispered. For what it's worth. I think you deserved better. I nodded, barely holding it together. When the door finally clicked shut behind them, I stood in the silence of my apartment, surrounded by platters of untouched food, half-full wine glasses, and the ghost of what I had hoped Thanksgiving would be, $347 in groceries. $28,800 in support. And not an ounce of gratitude in return. I grabbed my car keys and walked out. I couldn't stay there, not in that apartment, not with the turkey growing cold and the air still heavy with insults. I drove around aimlessly for over 2 hours, passing places that used to mean something. The high school where I graduated valedictorian. The park where Dad taught Josh to throw a football. The library where Mom worked but never once displayed my academic awards, only Josh's trophies, each place came with a memory. Some hurt more than others. Like the time I won a national essay contest and Dad said, "It's just writing. Anyone can do that." Or the time Mom forgot to pick me up from math club because Josh had a scrimmage. I waited in the rain for 2 hours. And of course, the ultimate betrayal, when they used my college fund to buy Josh a car. "He needs it more," they said. "For practice." My phone rang, yanking me out of the past. "Amber, hey," I answered, my voice thick. "What happened?" I pulled into a quiet parking lot and spilled everything: Dad's explosion, Mom's accusations, the ugly truth that had been bubbling under the surface for years finally erupting like lava. Amber didn't try to sugarcoat it. "Emily, this has been a long time coming. You know that, right?" I wiped away a tear. "You think I overreacted?" "No. I think you finally reacted. There's a difference." I was quiet. "You've been their ATM. No recognition, no respect. Just obligation. And that's not love. That's emotional blackmail." "That sounds harsh. But accurate," she said gently. "They've been taking from you without giving anything back. And every time you tolerated it, you told them it was okay to keep doing it." A fresh wave of guilt hit me. So this is my fault too? No. Their behavior is 100% on them. But continuing to enable it? That's a choice. And you finally made a different one. Amber's words hit like truth usually does, sharp, but necessary. "You're right," I said. "This ends tonight." "What are you going to do?" Exactly what I told them. "I'm cutting them off. Completely." There was a pause. "You sure?" I've never been more sure of anything. When I got back to my apartment, I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just got to work. Cleaning up the kitchen felt strangely therapeutic, like reclaiming my space. I packed away leftovers, rinsed dishes, wiped down the counters until every surface sparkled. Then I sat down at my desk. Step 1, I logged into my bank account and canceled every automatic payment tied to my parents' mortgage, utilities, insurance. Each site asked, "Are you sure?" Yes. I was sure. With every confirmation, I felt another chain fall away. Step 2, I opened my email and drafted a message to Michael Turner, my family's longtime attorney. Subject: termination of financial support. "Dear Michael, I'm writing to formally document my decision to cease all financial support to Raymond and Cheryl Carter, effective immediately. Over the past 3 years, I voluntarily covered their $1,600 monthly mortgage, plus approximately $800 in additional monthly expenses including utilities and insurance. This was never a contractual agreement, just temporary support during financial hardship. I am under no legal obligation to continue, and as of today, I'm terminating all payments. Please retain this message for record keeping in case of future disputes. Best, Emily Carter." I hit send. Then I texted my parents' landlord to inform them I would no longer be responsible for rent or home-related payments. "Understood, Emily," came the quick reply. "December's payment will be their responsibility, correct?" "Correct," I typed. "All future payments are on them." Next. I called each utility company. One by one, I removed my name from their accounts. Most were cooperative. One woman at the electric company even sounded sympathetic. "We'll notify the account holders that they have 7 days to add a new payment method before service is interrupted." "Thank you," I said. And I meant it. 7 days was more than fair. By midnight, everything was shut off. The entire financial structure I had built to hold them up, it was gone, $2,400 a month, back in my pocket. For the first time in 3 years, and yet. In the quiet, it wasn't joy I felt. It was a strange kind of grief. Because as much as I wanted to pretend they didn't matter, they were still my parents. I still remember Dad teaching me to ride a bike. Mom reading bedtime stories before Josh was born. Tiny flickers of warmth buried under years of coldness. I didn't want to be there when they came back. Just in case. So I packed an overnight bag and booked a hotel across town. As I zipped my suitcase, my phone buzzed nonstop, texts and missed calls. Dad, how dare you speak to us like that? Mom, I didn't raise you to be so selfish. Dad again, you'll regret this. Nothing from Josh. I silenced my phone, grabbed my bag, and walked out the door. In the hotel room, I stood by the window, overlooking the twinkling city lights. This place had once felt like home, but tonight it felt like exile. And yet, somewhere deep in my chest, I felt something new. Relief. This wasn't defeat. It was a retreat. A strategic one. For once, I was choosing peace. The next morning, my phone showed 37 missed calls, 22 voicemails, and over 60 texts. Most were from my parents. But some? Extended family. Aunts. Uncles. People I hadn't heard from in months. Word had spread. The first voicemail was from Dad, tight voice, thinly masked fury. Emily, this childish tantrum has gone far enough. Call me. The second, more frantic, the mortgage company called. They said you removed your payment info. This isn't funny. By the eighth message, his tone had shifted completely. Emily. Please. Your mom is a wreck. Let's talk. Mom's messages were what you'd expect, guilt-laced monologues. How could you do this after all we've done for you? I haven't slept. I'm sick with stress. Is that what you want? I deleted them all. Every single one. And then I ordered room service. As I sat in that hotel room eating scrambled eggs and sourdough toast off a porcelain tray, I checked my email. A reply from Michael Turner, my attorney. Subject: termination of financial support. Emily, thank you for documenting your decision. You are absolutely correct that you have no legal obligation to continue these payments. While your parents could theoretically attempt to claim an implied agreement or detrimental reliance, such arguments are extremely difficult to prove, especially given the absence of a formal contract and the voluntary nature of your support. If anything escalates or if legal claims are made, contact me immediately. Regards, Michael Turner. The email didn't just confirm what I already knew, it validated it. I hadn't abandoned them. I had simply stopped participating in a toxic dynamic. Later that morning, I decided to return to work. I figured hiding out at the hotel wouldn't solve anything. Better to face the fallout head-on. I had barely settled at my desk when I got a call from the front desk receptionist. Emily, there are 2 people in the lobby, claiming to be your parents. They don't have an appointment, but they're demanding to see you. Says it's a family emergency. I closed my eyes, heart pounding. But when I spoke, my voice was calm. Tell them I'm in back-to-back meetings all morning. If they refuse to leave, call building security. You got it. 20 minutes later, there was a knock on my office door. Jennifer, my boss, stepped in and closed it behind her. I assume you know the couple security just escorted out of the building? I sighed. Yes. That was my parents. Jennifer didn't look judgmental, just concerned. Are you okay? I debated brushing it off with a quick yeah, I'm fine, but something in her tone told me she deserved honesty. Not really, I admitted. We've had a major falling out. I've been financially supporting them for the past 3 years, and yesterday I told them it was over. They're not taking it well. Jennifer nodded slowly, arms folded. I'm sorry you're dealing with this. If you need time off, say the word. Thank you, but honestly, work helps. It's the only thing right now that feels like mine. She gave a soft smile. Understood. Just so you know, I've told security that under no circumstances are they to be let in without your written permission. This is your workplace, and you deserve to feel safe here. It was such a simple gesture, but it hit me hard. After everything, someone was finally setting a boundary for me instead of making me do all the heavy lifting. By lunchtime, Josh finally texted, Josh, Mom and Dad are freaking out. They said you cut them off completely. Is that true? I took a deep breath, yes. It's true. I'm done being the family ATM while being treated like a failure. The typing bubbles appeared, disappeared, then returned again. Josh, but what about their mortgage? The bills? What about them? I've been paying them for 3 years. Maybe it's your turn. Josh, you know I can't afford that. I'm barely covering my own rent and car payments. Then maybe they need to sell the house. Downsize. Get additional jobs. You know, like adults. He didn't respond for several minutes. When he did, it surprised me. Josh, they never told me you were paying everything. Just said you helped out sometimes. I had no idea. That one stung more than I expected. Of course they had minimized it. Admitting how much they relied on me would have meant showing appreciation, and they weren't in the business of gratitude. Well, now you know. And now it's done. That afternoon, the mortgage company called. For a moment, I considered ignoring it, but picked up instead. Ms. Carter? This is Lindsay from Northgate Mortgage. I'm calling about the Carter residence on Meadowview Lane. I'm no longer making payments on that property, I said flatly. As of this week, I've removed all my financial responsibility. I understand. I'm calling because the account holders asked us to speak with you directly. They said there might have been some confusion. No confusion, I said. Just consequences. I see, Lindsay replied professionally. In that case, we'll update our records accordingly. Thank you for your time. That evening, Aunt Debbie, my mom's sister, called. I didn't answer. She left a voicemail, which was basically a guilt trip wrapped in nostalgia. Emily, I just don't understand why you would do this. Your mother is crying every night. Your father says you've turned your back on them. They gave you everything. Now you're throwing them out like trash over a little money? I almost laughed. A little money? It had been almost $30,000, not to mention 3 years of emotional depletion. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. Instead, I drove home, half expecting to find Dad's truck parked outside my building again. It wasn't. But I circled the block twice just to be safe, and that's when my phone rang, from an unknown number. Hello? Emily? It's Zoe. That caught me off guard. Zoe. Is everything okay? Not really. Your parents showed up at your apartment earlier this evening. Your dad tried to use a key. My heart dropped. He doesn't have a key. I know. One of your neighbors confronted them. Your dad said he was your father and had every right to enter. The neighbor called the police. The police? They showed up, but no one was arrested. They were just told they had no legal right to be there. I rubbed my temple, trying to process. There's more, she added. Josh and we had a fight. He called you selfish. I told him he was blind. That what I saw on Thanksgiving wasn't okay. That you've been carrying them alone for years. He didn't want to hear it. I let out a breath. I'm sorry. Don't be. He needed to hear it. Anyway. I just thought you should know. And, for what it's worth, I think what you did took guts. Thank you, I said softly. Really? After we hung up, I called the non-emergency police line and reported the attempted break-in. I asked for increased patrols. The officer was kind and understanding. If they come back, he said, call 911 immediately. You have the right to feel safe in your own home. That night, I barely slept. Every creak, every sound from the hallway outside sent my heart racing. When morning came, my phone lit up with more messages: Mom, Dad, Aunt Debbie. Even my cousin Rachel, who I hadn't spoken to in 5 years, but the most eye-opening message came from my cousin Megan, the unofficial family gossip. Megan, OMG. Everyone's talking about the police thing. Your mom told people you're having a breakdown and they were checking on you. My jaw clenched. That's not what happened. I stopped paying their bills after years of financial and emotional abuse. They tried to enter my apartment without permission while I wasn't home. A neighbor called the cops. Megan, wow. Okay. That's not what they told everyone. But it makes sense. I believe you. Thanks. By the end of the day, the fallout had begun. My mom's texts had taken a turn, the internet just went out. Now the power's off, it's freezing in here. Water's getting shut off tomorrow. I hope you're satisfied. I didn't respond. I had warned them. Gave them notice. Gave them options, they just didn't believe I'd follow through, but I had. And I wasn't going back. A week after Thanksgiving, I sat on a soft leather couch in Dr. Laura Benson's office, my first ever therapy session. I'd never pictured myself as the kind of person who needed therapy. But after a week of being bombarded with texts, voicemails, attempted break-ins, and public family humiliation, I was ready for help, so Dr. Benson asked gently after I finished recounting everything. How are you feeling now that you've made this decision? I took a moment. Guilty. Relieved. Sad. Empowered. All of it. All at once. She nodded. That's normal. You've disrupted a long-standing family pattern. That comes with emotional consequences, even if the pattern was toxic. I keep wondering if I should have handled it differently. Given more warning. Sat them down. Talked it through. She leaned forward slightly. Would that have changed anything? Would they have listened, or just tried to guilt you into staying in the role they're comfortable with? I sighed. They would have spun it. Promised to change. Asked for one more month. And I probably would have said yes. Then maybe the clean break was necessary, she said simply. Sometimes, abrupt change is the kindest path, especially when the alternative is dragging out your pain indefinitely. We spent the rest of the session digging deeper. Patterns. Expectations. Boundaries. For the first time in my life, I was encouraged to put myself at the center of my decisions, not my family's needs, not their approval, not their guilt. By the end of that hour, I wasn't magically healed. But I was grounded. Clear. Stronger. When I left her office, I saw a text from Josh. Josh, can we meet for coffee? Just us. No drama. No parents. I hesitated. But then I texted back, Me, okay. Somewhere neutral. We met at a quiet cafe near the river. Josh looked exhausted, dark circles under his eyes, tension in his shoulders. Thanks for coming, he said. You look like hell, I replied, not unkindly. He gave a weak laugh. Feels like it. I broke up with Zoe. I'm sorry. Don't be. She said some things I needed to hear. And I didn't like hearing them. But she was right. I raised an eyebrow. About? He stirred his coffee slowly. About how unfair things have been. How Mom and Dad always went easier on me. How they built me up while tearing you down. I guess. I never really saw it until that dinner. I said nothing. Just let him keep going. I've taken over the utility bills, he said after a pause. Not the mortgage, I can't swing that yet, but electric, water, internet. It's on me now. I told Mom and Dad they'd have to figure out the rest. My jaw tightened. I thought the mortgage was current. He winced. It's not. They're 3 months behind. Apparently, they've been using credit cards to cover everything else, car repairs, groceries, even cash advances. I felt my stomach twist. So while I was draining my savings to keep them afloat, they were quietly sinking deeper. He nodded. They didn't tell me until this week. I didn't know, I swear. Well, I said, now you do. They're telling everyone you blindsided them. That you abandoned them. Of course they are. I set Uncle Matt straight last night. Told him you'd been paying the mortgage for years. He was shocked. That explains why he called me this morning. Probably, Josh said. He and Aunt Denise are thinking about letting Mom and Dad stay with them temporarily. Just until they get their heads on straight. We talked for another hour, memories, regrets, realizations. It wasn't reconciliation. Not yet. But it was something. A step. A bridge, maybe. As we stood to leave, Josh looked unsure. Are you going to the Christmas party at Grandma's? I hadn't even thought about it. That gathering had always felt like one big performance of family perfection. I usually spent the evening smiling through gritted teeth. I don't know, I said. It might be too soon. Fair, he nodded. But maybe it'd help to have someone on your side this time. That word, ally, hung in the air. Strange, but not unwelcome. Later that week, I got a text from Zoe. Zoe, Josh told me you two talked. I'm glad. Ending things with him was hard, but necessary. He's got some growing up to do. You, though. You're already there. Stay strong. It meant more than I expected. So did the call from Jennifer, my boss. Emily, I've been thinking about your situation, she said. Our company has an emergency housing assistance program for employees dealing with unsafe living conditions. You qualify. It would cover a temporary relocation if needed. That's incredibly kind, I said, genuinely touched. But I think I'm okay now. The police have been patrolling the area, and my parents haven't shown up again. Well, the offer stands. And by the way, your performance over the past year? Stellar. You've shown an ability to stay focused under extreme pressure. That's exactly the kind of skill our top clients value. I've nominated you for our Executive Financial Strategist program. I blinked. Wait. The Lead Portfolio program? She smiled. You've earned it. That night, I reflected on what she said. Recognition. Support. Not based on guilt. Not tied to conditions. Just earned. Of course, not everyone was supportive. 3 days later, I bumped into Mom at a grocery store across town. I'd gone out of my way to avoid our neighborhood, but fate clearly had other plans. "Emily," she said sharply, blocking my path near the apples. She looked older. Worn down. Her hair was unkempt. Her eyes red. "Hi, Mom," I said, keeping my tone neutral. "Please move. I need to get by." "That's it?" she snapped. "After what you've done to this family?" "This isn't the place, Mom." "Where is the place?" she said, raising her voice. "You won't answer our calls. You turned your brother against us. You've humiliated us. I've told the truth. If that turns people against you, maybe look at why." "The truth?" she said, practically shrieking. "The truth is you've always been selfish. Always thought you were better than us. With your fancy degrees and your big city job. We gave you everything." I shook my head. "No, Mom. You gave Josh everything. You gave me expectations and criticism." She started crying, loud, performative sobs that drew attention from other shoppers. "Ma'am," an employee said, approaching cautiously. "Is everything okay here?" "No," she wailed. "My daughter is publicly humiliating me." "I was just leaving," I said, dropping my basket and walking out. Outside, I sat in my car, hands trembling. Her words echoed in my ears. Families don't just end because one person walks away. Maybe not. But dysfunctional patterns do. Later that day, a video of the encounter appeared in a local Facebook group. Daughter disowns parents at grocery store read the caption. It went semi-viral. Old friends started texting me. Some with sympathy. Others with nosy curiosity. That weekend, I went to Amber's holiday party, gingerbread houses, Christmas music, hot cider. Surrounded by friends who chose me. Who valued me. Who didn't expect anything but honesty and laughter. "To chosen family," Amber toasted, raising her glass. "To chosen family," we echoed, and in that moment, I understood something. I hadn't lost a family, I'd found one. 3 months later, winter melted into spring. The trees on my street were beginning to bud, tiny green signs of new life. My weekly therapy sessions continued. Dr. Benson helped me process the grief I hadn't realized I was carrying. "Grief doesn't only follow death," she explained. "It follows loss. Of relationships. Of expectations. Of the version of family you hoped might one day exist." So I grieved, and then I healed. Josh and I continued rebuilding. Not perfectly. But honestly. Slowly, my parents eventually moved in with Aunt Denise and Uncle Matt in Arizona. The house went into foreclosure. The damage they'd done financially was deeper than I ever realized. One afternoon, Josh handed me a letter. From Mom. I won't read it all here, but I'll share this part. "I see it now, how unfair we were, how much we expected of you and how little we gave in return. I can't ask for forgiveness, but I hope one day. Maybe. You'll talk to me again." I wrote back, "Thank you for your letter, I appreciate the honesty, I'm not ready to reconnect, but I do wish you well, Emily." No promises. No re-entry. Just a simple boundary. Some relationships can be repaired, others need to be released, and that's okay. Not everything broken is meant to be fixed. Sometimes, we're meant to build something new. And I did, a new life, a new family, a new version of myself, one that no longer begs for love that should have been freely given. If you've ever had to choose between your well-being and your family's expectations, I hope this story showed you something important. Choosing yourself isn't selfish, it's survival. If this resonated with you, give it a thumbs up, subscribe for more personal stories, and drop a comment below. Have you ever had to walk away from someone you loved to protect the person you're becoming? Thanks for listening, and remember, true family lifts you up, not weighs you down. In the end, this story isn't just about a ruined Thanksgiving dinner. It's about awakening, the moment a daughter realized that love should never come with conditions, especially not in the form of monthly payments. For 3 years, she sacrificed her finances, time, and emotional energy to keep her family afloat, hoping it would earn her their respect. Instead, she got silence, criticism, and dismissal. And when the final blow landed, at her own dinner table, she finally understood: no one has the right to belittle you just because you love them more than they know how to love you back. The lesson here is powerful. Family shouldn't be the place you shrink yourself to fit into outdated expectations. Setting boundaries isn't selfish, it's self-preservation. Sacrifice should never become a leash. Not unless you allow it. Sometimes, to find peace, we have to let go of what we've been clinging to. Because real love, whether from family, friends, or anyone, should lift you up, not weigh you down. And if you've ever been in a similar situation, I hope this story reminds you of one simple truth: choosing yourself isn't betrayal. It's the deepest form of self-respect.